a beacon of human knowledge, a repository of countless scrolls holding the wisdom of the ancient world. Now, imagine it all gone, lost forever to fire, a catastrophic, irreversible erasure of history. Or think of the colossal Buddhas of Bamyan in Afghanistan, standing for 1,500 years, only to be turned to dust in an instant by dynamite. Our shared cultural heritage, the very bedrock of our identity, is terrifyingly fragile. It's under constant threat from war, from natural disasters, from the slow, relentless decay of time, and even from simple neglect and a lack of funding. For centuries, we've relied on physical preservation, museums, climate-controlled vaults, and dedicated restoration experts. These methods are heroic, but they are also centralized, expensive, and ultimately vulnerable. A single point of failure, a single conflict, a single fire can wipe out a legacy. What if there was another way? A way to create a backup for civilization itself? A way to give our history a form of digital immortality? This is where a technology you've likely heard of, but perhaps in a very different context, enters the stage. I'm talking about the blockchain, and more specifically, non-fungible tokens, or NFTs. Now hold on. Before you picture cartoon apes and pixelated punks, we need to fundamentally redefine what an NFT is in this context. Forget the hype and the speculative bubbles for a moment. At its core, an NFT is simply a unique, verifiable digital certificate of authenticity and ownership secured on a blockchain. A blockchain is a decentralized, distributed, and immutable digital ledger. Think of it less like a single, vulnerable book in a library and more like a magical book where every page is simultaneously copied and stored in thousands of computers around the world. If you try to change or destroy one copy, the others instantly recognize it as a fraud. This makes the information recorded on it incredibly secure and tamper-proof. So how does this apply to a 2,000-year-old Roman statue or a delicate Mayan codex? An NFT, in the world of cultural heritage, isn't the art itself. It's the unbreakable link to it. It's the digital provenance, the ironclad proof of history, the unforgeable title deed. We can create an incredibly detailed, high-fidelity digital scan of an artifact, a digital twin, and then mint an NFT that represents the authentic, official version of that digital object. This NFT can contain a wealth of information: its origin, its history of ownership, restoration records, academic research, and high-resolution imagery. All of this data is locked onto the blockchain, creating a permanent, globally accessible record that exists independently of the physical object. This is a paradigm shift. The physical artifact might remain in a museum in Cairo or a vault in London, but its story, its essence, its verifiable identity is now decentralized and protected across a global network. It's no longer hostage to a single location. This approach tackles the fundamental vulnerabilities of our current system head-on. Consider the illicit antiquities trade, a multi-billion-dollar black market fueled by looting from archaeological sites. Tracking the provenance of an object is notoriously difficult, often relying on centuries-old, easily forged paper documents. By tokenizing an artifact on a blockchain, we create a transparent and unbroken chain of custody from the moment it's excavated. Every time it's sold, loaned, or moved, the transaction is recorded on the immutable ledger, making it nearly impossible for stolen artifacts to be laundered into the legitimate market. Furthermore, this isn't just about protecting against loss, it's about radically expanding access. Right now, over 90% of museum collections are typically hidden away in storage, unseen by the public due to space limitations. Imagine a world where anyone, from a student in a remote village to a researcher across the continent, can access and study a perfect digital replica of a fragile manuscript without any risk to the original. Imagine virtual reality museum experiences where you can walk among the statues of ancient Rome, each one backed by an authenticating NFT, guaranteeing you're seeing a true representation. This technology provides a solution not just for preservation, but for the democratization of knowledge. It's about building a more resilient, more transparent, and more accessible record of human history. We are moving from a model of physical scarcity and centralized control to one of digital abundance and decentralized stewardship. The question is no longer just how do we stop things from breaking, but how do we ensure our collective story can never be erased? So, we've established the why, the urgent need for a more robust system to protect our heritage. But what about the how? How does this transition from a compelling idea to a practical working reality? The mechanisms are as innovative as the concept itself, and they go far beyond simply creating a digital picture and calling it an NFT. The first and most foundational mechanism is the creation of high-fidelity digital twins. This isn't a simple photograph. We're talking about using cutting-edge technologies like photogrammetry and 3D laser scanning to capture an artifact or even an entire historical site with sub-millimeter accuracy. Every crack, every tool mark, every faded pigment is meticulously recorded, creating a data-rich digital surrogate that is, for all intents and purposes, a perfect replica. This digital twin can then be linked to an NFT, which acts as its birth certificate and permanent record. The benefits are immediate and profound. Researchers can analyze these models in ways that would be impossible or damaging with the physical object, zooming in to microscopic levels or running simulations. Educators can build immersive, interactive classroom experiences. And most importantly, if the original is ever damaged or destroyed, we have an exact blueprint for study and potentially even for restoration. The second and perhaps most revolutionary mechanism is the concept of fractional ownership for funding. Let's be honest, heritage conservation is chronically underfunded. Governments have limited budgets, and private philanthropy can only go so far. This is where NFTs can unlock entirely new economic models. Imagine a historic building, like a medieval castle in Europe, that needs $1 million for urgent roof repairs. A heritage organization could create a high-fidelity digital twin of the castle and then issue, say, 10,000 NFTs. Each NFT represents a tiny, fractional share of stewardship or a special connection to the project. People from all over the world who care about that castle can buy an NFT for $100. They don't own the physical castle, but they become part of its story. They become digital patrons. The funds raised go directly to the real-world restoration, and the entire process is transparently recorded on the blockchain. Donors can see exactly how their money is being used. This model transforms preservation from a passive act of donation into an active, engaging form of community participation. It allows a global community to collectively fund the protection of sites they may never even visit in person, creating a powerful network of global custodians for our shared history. The third key mechanism is what we touched on earlier, unbreakable provenance and authenticity tracking. The traditional art and antiquities market is notoriously opaque. A document can be forged, a story can be invented. The blockchain replaces this with cryptographic certainty. When a museum acquires a new artifact, it can be tokenized. Its entire known history is encoded into the NFT's metadata. If the museum loans it to another institution for an exhibition, that transfer is recorded on-chain. This creates a living, breathing, and completely verifiable history for the object. This system could decimate the market for looted goods. Imagine customs agents being able to scan an object and instantly check its blockchain record to see if it has a legitimate provenance or if it was reported stolen from a conflict zone. This isn't science fiction. Organizations like the Digital Giza Project are already using 3D modeling to document the Giza Plateau, while initiatives are exploring how to attach NFT-based provenance to both digital and physical works of art, creating a new gold standard for authenticity that could restore trust and ethics to the field. These three mechanisms, digital twins for preservation and access, fractional ownership for funding, and blockchain ledgers for provenance, form a powerful trifecta, a new toolkit for the 21st century conservationist, moving heritage protection from a defensive, reactive practice to a proactive, interconnected, and globally funded mission. Now, as promising as this all sounds, we can't ignore the very real challenges and ethical minefields that come with this technological leap. It's crucial to approach this with a critical eye, not just unbridled optimism. The most prominent and valid criticism leveled against blockchain technology has been its enormous environmental impact. Early blockchains like Bitcoin and Ethereum used a proof-of-work system that consumed vast amounts of energy. The idea of burning the energy equivalent of a small country to preserve a digital potsherd is frankly absurd and self-defeating. However, the technology is evolving rapidly. The vast majority of new and emerging blockchain projects, including Ethereum's recent major upgrade, now use a system called proof of stake, which is drastically more energy efficient. We're talking a reduction of over 99%. Any responsible heritage project in this space must be built on these environmentally friendly platforms. The energy argument, while once a deal breaker, is becoming less of a barrier and more of a design choice. Beyond the technical, there are profound social and ethical questions. Chief among them is the digital divide. Who has access to this technology? If our global heritage is preserved on a digital platform, what about the billions of people without reliable internet access or the digital literacy to engage with it? There's a real danger of creating a new form of cultural gatekeeping, where only the technologically privileged can participate. Furthermore, the very idea of ownership is complex. Can a Western institution mint an NFT for an artifact that was taken from a former colony centuries ago? This raises critical issues of digital colonialism and data sovereignty. It's absolutely essential that these projects are developed not but local and indigenous communities, empowering them to take ownership of their own digital heritage, to control their own narratives, and to benefit directly from the economic models this technology enables. The goal should be decentralization of power, not just data. Then, there's the risk of financialization. The current NFT market is heavily driven by speculation. The last thing we want is for our priceless cultural heritage to become just another volatile asset class for crypto traders. The focus must remain steadfastly on preservation, research, and access, not on profit. The governance of these projects needs to be carefully structured, perhaps through nonprofit foundations or DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, to ensure the conservation mission always comes first. The tool must serve the mission, not the other way around. Despite these significant hurdles, the long-term vision is undeniably transformative. Imagine a future where history is no longer a static collection of objects in glass cases, but a living, dynamic, and interconnected global database. A decentralized world museum owned by everyone and no one, where the stories of humanity are preserved on an immutable ledger, safe from the ravages of time and conflict. A future where a community in the Andes can fund the preservation of their sacred sites by sharing their digital heritage with the world on their own terms. This technology is not a magic bullet. It is a powerful, complex tool with immense potential for both good and ill. Its responsible adoption requires careful thought, ethical frameworks, and a deep commitment to collaboration. It forces us to ask new questions. What does it mean to preserve something? Who has the right to do it? And how can we build a future where our past is truly secure? The journey is just beginning, but it's possible we are standing at the threshold of a new era for cultural preservation, one that could finally help us win the long war against forgetting.